Scott McCormick, SCOTTMCCORMICK.
Your occupation, sir.
I drive for Alaska Cab.
Go ahead, Ms. Allen.
Mr. McCormick, how long have you driven for the Alaska Cab?
2 years.
And do you have a particular shift that you drive?
I currently drive on the day shift
And what are your hours currently?
from 6 in the morning to 6 in the evening.
Now, just generally, I just want to ask you some general questions about Alaska Cab and the operation there and how you receive notices of pickups, et cetera. So, what typically happens when you come to work at 6 a.m.?
At 6 in the morning, I get into a car. I let our dispatcher know I'm on the road. And they start assigning me calls as I'm clear and,
As calls come in, you get assigned
yes, ma'am.
calls. How do you get notified that there's a call ready, or when I say call, does that mean a pickup? Someone wants a cab?
Yes, ma'am.
How do you receive notification that there's a cab ride that needs to be?
On day shift, we receive a text message from our dispatcher. The night shift, it's done over the radio.
Does Alaska Cab have a centralized phone number that
Yes, ma'am.
the public can use to call for a cab?
Yes, ma'am.
Is there only one phone number or more than one?
There is only one.
And how many cabs are operating at any given time?
Day shift, there's typically 10 to 12. Night shift is anywhere between 4 to 7.
And does the Alaska Cab cover the whole valley or part of the valley, or can you tell me?
It covers all of the valley, ma'am.
And having driven a cab for 2 years, I take it you're familiar with the valley and the road systems and.
Yes, ma'am.
So I'm gonna draw your attention to November 13th of 2016, late evening into the morning of November 14th, 2016. Were you working at that time?
Yes, ma'am.
What was your shift at that time?
At that time, I was working the night shift.
What hours was it?
It would have been from 6 in the evening to 6 in the morning.
And November 13th, 2016, that was a Sunday, June?
Yes, ma'am.
So we're talking about Sunday night into Monday morning.
Yes, ma'am.
And do you recall approximately how many pickups you had during that shift? Roughly?
Say about 15.
And at some point, were you dispatched to the Little Susitna and Schrock Bridge for a pickup?
Yes, ma'am.
Do you recall about when that was? What time?
It would have been early morning of the 14th.
Do you recall where you were at when you received that dispatch?
I was sitting in the parking lot of the Valley Performing Arts Center.
And is that typical to be, like, when you're not on a call doing a pickup, that you sit and wait at a particular location for calls to come in?
Yes, ma'am.
So you get this call for a pickup at Little Susitna and Schrock Bridge. How does that call come? How do you get notified of that call?
On the night shift, it comes over the radio. Our dispatcher sends a specific driver out to that call.
And at that time, what information were you provided by dispatch?
Location and phone number.
And what is the purpose of the phone number?
Phone number is to let the customer know that we're there to pick them up, or for us to make contact with the customer to get better directions to the location.
And what phone number were you provided?
521-4 4273.
And so how do you get from Valley Performing Arts to the location of the Schrock Bridge?
I drove down the Parks Highway to Church Road. I turned on to Church Road, followed Church Road all the way up to Schrock. Made a left onto Schrock and arrived there at the bridge.
And what did you observe when you arrived at the bridge?
3 males in the pullout.
And when you say in the pullout, what do you mean with the pullout?
There's a little pull-out parking area right there at the bridge on the left-hand side.
And can you describe to the jury a little more about these 3 males that you're, from what you're reading?
They were in their late teens, early 20s. They were wearing blue jeans, tennis shoes, and I believe sweatshirts.
And do you recall what the weather was on that particular night as far as temperature, snowing, not snowing?
It was not snowing, but it was down into the low 30s.
Did any of the males, you said they had tennis shoes, blue jeans, sweatshirts, any coats,
No, ma'am.
hats?
Not that I remember.
Gloves at all?
I don't think so.
How about ethnicity? Do you recall what ethnicity? White males, Asian?
White males, not sure, but one of them may have been a black male.
So when you pull up to the pullout, what happens next? Where do these 3 males go?
They get in the backseat of the car.
And do they all sit in the back seat?
Yes, ma'am.
And how are they acting?
Just like any of my normal customers, talking amongst themselves.
And where was their destination?
To a residence near one of the charter schools in Palmer.
And at that time, did you know how much money that they had for the cab ride?
As we started, they said they only had $43, and to drop them off wherever $43 got them.
And so which route did you take towards the charter school outside of Palmer?
I followed my route down Schrock to Church Road, down to the Parks Highway, to the Palmer-Wasilla Highway, and headed toward Palmer.
On the way to the bridge and back from the bridge, do you pass the Valley Country Store at the intersection of Selden and Church?
On that route, yes, ma'am, I do.
During the cab ride, do you recall any conversations that was occurring?
Yes, ma'am. And they were having a normal conversation, but one of the individuals made a comment that they had left the Wi-Fi hotspot on.
Any other part of this normal conversation?
And a little bit later, they were talking about needing to stop by a friend's house to pick up an extension cord to plug in a heater or at a cabin or a shed that they were going to at that residence.
You had a telephone number that was provided as part of the dispatch. Did either one of the males did you observe any cell phones?
No, ma'am.
Any other electronic devices?
A tablet.
And what do you recall about the tablet?
The individual had it in their hand as they got into the car.
So they had $43, how far did this $43 take them?
It got him to Prospect Road and the Palmer Westfield Highway.
And about what else is in that area, if you give the jury?
Pioneer Pizza is right across the highway from there.
So about how long was that ride then, from the bridge to?
And it's about a 20-minute drive.
And how did you know where to stop?
They were watching the meter. It hit $43, and they said that was as far as they could go.
How did the cab fare get paid?
Cash.
When they got out of the car, did you observe where they went from there?
They started walking toward Palmer.
The three of them?
Yes, ma'am.
Were they split up at all, or did they walk as a group?
They walked as a group.
Any other observations? Did you make any other observations about them as far as whether or not they've been, did you note any odor of alcohol or anything?
No, ma'am.
At some point, were you contacted by the Alaska State Troopers regarding that cab ride?
Yes, ma'am.
And were you asked to see if you could identify any of the males in the photo lineup?
Yes, ma'am.
Were you confidently able to identify any of the males?
No, ma'am.
Judge, if I may approach, I think it's, State's Exhibit 12. And Mr. McCormick, if I could ask you to step up next to State's Exhibit 12. And I think you can just use the microphone that's on the jury box there.
See that okay, Mitch?
I can.
And do you recognize State's Exhibit 12 as a map of the Matsu Valley? And does that map have the road system on it as well?
Yes, ma'am.
Do you see a tab on that map labeled P?
Yes, ma'am, right here.
Yes. Is that the area where the pickup was at the Schrock Bridge?
Yes, ma'am.
And do you see a tab labeled D?
Yes, ma'am.
And is that the area where you did the drop-off around Pioneer Pizza?
Yes, ma'am.
When the $43 was paid in cash, do you recall where the cash came from, as far as from one person, or if it was a group effort to collect the?
No, ma'am.
Just recall the $43 being paid.
Yes, ma'am.
Do you recall if it was while they were still in the cab, or after they got out of the cab, or anything as far as?
They were still in the cab at the time.
Okay, and then they just handed you up the $43 and went on their way?
Yes, ma'am.
Those are all my questions, thank you.
Mr. McCormick,
Yes, sir.
how you doing this afternoon?
Good.
You said you picked up 3 individuals, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
And you were shown multiple lineups by the state troopers, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
And you didn't feel comfortable picking anybody out?
No, sir.
Okay. And you said that you believe they were white males, one of them might have been an African-American individual?
Yes, sir.
Okay. You said they weren't dressed for the weather?
That is correct.
Okay. And you were in the cab with them for approximately 20 minutes, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
and they went till they ran out of money, which was $43 worth, is that right?
Yes, sir.
Okay, you said you didn't smell any alcohol on them?
No, sir.
Did you smell any gasoline on them?
No, sir.
The phone number 521-4273, do you remember that number?
I have it written down in my paperwork from my dispatch sheet from that night.
And so I want to just clarify, when you get a call, you get it from dispatch, is that right?
Yes, sir.
You don't actually talk to the individual separately, is that right?
On night shift, the drivers may typically talk with the individual as they call in, because our dispatch is answered over the radio system.
Did you talk to the person on that phone number that night?
No, sir.
Okay. And that, so that phone number 521-4273 was actually not a number that you had like in your phone. That was a number that was given to you by dispatch, is that correct?
And that was the phone number that the customers gave us, yes.
To dispatch.
Correct.
And you, did you hear that or did you not hear that?
I heard that.
Did you have it going on in your vehicle, is that right?
Yes, sir.
And then you write it down separately?
Yes, sir.
And when you got to the bridge, did you have to call that phone number to, or were you able to find where they were right away?
I was able to locate them.
So you heard the phone number as it came across from dispatch, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
And you talked to the troopers a number of times, is that right?
I talked to them, I believe it was the 22nd
22nd?
of November.
Did you talk to more than one officer?
I talked to two of them that were doing the interview.
And did you talk to them separately or at the same time?
At the same time, sir.
Okay, all right. And that's when they showed you the lineups, is that right?
Yes, sir.
And safe to say, back in November of 2016, things were fresher in your mind?
Yes, sir.
I don't have any other questions, thank you. Did we admit 12 or did we just move to?
I don't think they moved to admit it.
I'll move to move.
Any objection?
No objection.
Okay. And then we'll slide it back. Any redirect?
I just had one follow-up. You said that you had roughly 15 pickups on that particular morning.
Yes, ma'am.
Do you have occasion to remember what your customers look like?
No, ma'am.
Do you think you could pick out any of those 15 from a photo lineup?
No, ma'am.
And why is that?
I have so many people in and out of the car. Unless they're a regular customer and I pick up on a regular basis, I don't remember a lot of details.
Do you particularly pay attention to what your customers look like?
I try to. Unfortunately, it's not always a
Not always possible.
yes.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
That's all I have.
Okay, sir, thank you. You can step down now.
You know, as the court knows, it's always, we're always ballparking, like which witnesses how many witnesses to have on a given day. We perhaps could call another witness for the next 20 minutes,
Okay, who would you be calling?
Mrs. Grunwald.
You know, it's up to you if you wanna.
And if you want to utilize the time,
Won't be doing cross-examination today, so I don't know if you wanna do it all in one day, Mr. Stoller, or,
Probably my preference.
okay.
and we can likewise start with her tomorrow morning, Judge.
Okay, why don't we just do that? And then-
Okay.
Okay. So I guess we'll just call that a day.